was surprising. I was still like organizing my tabs. Hey, Mónica, how are you doing?
Hi, Josephine.
Oh, how's it going?
So very, very anxious to start this new girl coffee break, our third one. So it has been a journey. And for today, we are going to have such an awesome a panel and discussion about. So I don't know if everyone is ready.
Yeah, I think so. But let's maybe just before we get started, we can give like people a second to get here already, get settled, maybe put in the chat where they're joining us from. And if this is your first time joining a GirlCode Coffee chat, we basically meet once a month. We once discovered that Mónica Arisa, who can't join us today because is she at Next.js? She's definitely traveling somewhere. We figured we're all GirlCode ambassadors, and we also all work at Storyblok, and so we figured we're going to do something together for the community, especially for girls in tech. But of course, even however you identify, everybody's welcome here. You don't have to be in tech. You don't have to be a girl. You can be anything you want, and you can still join. We talk about different topics every month. And if you have any topics that you would like us to cover in the future, you can definitely message us either on Twitter or on LinkedIn or wherever you can find us, and let us know. We're happy to consider them. Did I forget anything?
No, I think you did a great presentation. Sorry, I was already checking the amount of people joining us.
Yeah,
and I saw that I have here already someone saying hello. Hi, Agnes.
That's awesome. Nice.
So I think that this is your first time, but I hope it's not the last one. So we do this every month, as Josephine said. And we are also available to get ideas for new talks. So just put it in the chat if you want us to talk about some subject or some topic.
Yes, absolutely. And right, so let's get people on. Do we already want to say what we're going to talk about? Yeah, right.
Yes, so I think we can start. Yep. Yes.
Yep.
So do you want to start with that?
Sure. So today we're going to talk about personal branding and how you can build your own brand, because it's a buzzword, it's everywhere, it seems super important, but it's so overwhelming because it can mean so many things, right? So we got two experts to join us today, and we can ask them all the questions. So this is a massive opportunity, and both of them have been so good at establishing their own brand, at getting themselves out there. So we're super happy they're joining us today. And I'm going to introduce our first guest. She's actually a colleague of ours as well. It's Alba. You might know her from Twitter as, I can never pronounce this. Is it Dawn Troth? Oh man, I should have asked her before. I'm already very sorry. But she is working at Storyblok. Before she was a Storyblok ambassador, she's also an ambassador for Nuxt. She has this amazing podcast that makes me want to learn Spanish. It's called Vida. And she's also a Google developer expert and so many more things. I have a hard time, but maybe we can bring her on. There she is. Hello.
Hi, girls.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining, Alba.
Thanks to you. Actually, it doesn't have any pronunciation because I invented that word. So let's say that it's Dantraus because I pronounce it that way. But yeah, no, you can pronounce it whatever you like.
Okay, good. No, thank you so much for coming. It's such a pleasure to have you here. And whom would we rather talk to about personal branding? You're everywhere.
Yeah, thank you. No, actually, yeah, I'm really happy to be here with you guys and can discuss everything. That will be so cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. And you're bringing a friend. Maybe you want to introduce her. Yeah.
Yeah, I can. Actually, Gift is the next interviewee. And she is actually an ex-colleague from mine because we were working in Passionate People before together. And now she's also a developer advocate and I'm a DevRel. So it's really funny because we are following the same path, but in different companies. She's working in Cloudflare and actually she's speaking in a lot of conferences, hosting a lot of conferences, MVP, Microsoft, Google Developer Expert will be soon. I hope so because I want that she joins me. And she's also ambassador at Next. So she has a lot of roles that I don't know neither because in Twitter there is like a small description you can have, but she can start pages and pages and it will never end. So let's just get here in the stage, Gift, so she can speak about herself too.
Oh my God.
Hi, Gift.
Hey, everyone. Hey, thank you so
Hello.
much for having me. So glad to be here.
Yeah, so happy to have you.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything we forgot in your introduction? Anything you want to highlight about your
Oh my God, Alba knows me. Like I personally, if someone asks me to do an intro, I'll just go straight to I work at Cloudflare and not list the other things because I think we would have a conversation about that later, about not being too what's the word I'll use now? Boastful about these things. But yeah, it's just it's I think I'm involved in a lot of things and sometimes I even forget them. So maybe a few that Alba did not mention is I'm also part of the GitHub Stars program.
Yeah, that's true. You see?
And my Cloudinary media developer, advocate, and Auth0 ambassadors. Yeah, those three. Yeah.
Wow, what a list. But you are like diving right in. You said you're not trying to be too boastful about all these things, right? That plays right into our topic about personal branding, I guess, right?
Yeah, sure.
What a head
It does.
start. So should we maybe talk about what that actually means? Because I feel like it's so abstract. Like we're people, we're not technically a brand, but for some reason it kind of feels like you have to be to get a job. Maybe we can dive in right there. Gift, how was that for you? How did you discover the topic and how did you get started really?
Yeah, sure. Honestly, I didn't know what personal branding was around like 3 years ago. I just fell into it, and I remember when I started off my career, I started as a front end developer before moving into DevRel, and I did this challenge. I remember my first year in tech, 100 days of code, where it's like you share your progress online every day for a streak of like 100 days. And that even brought me awareness because I was living in Lagos. I didn't know that there was online communities, and that was the first actual community that I joined. And then I started seeing people like Sarah Drasner, and I just thought that they were doing things that I would love to do in my career. This was like literally 6 to 1 year into being a professional developer. But following the 100 Days of Code challenge, I just consistently continue to put stuff out there. If that is like a blog post or projects that I'm working on, or eventually being involved in my local community in Nigeria. So I started doing these things first before actually finding that all of these things that I'm doing actually leads to building a brand on my own. So I think the first time I thought of I actually had a brand was when I was building my personal website. So I was thinking what theme or what bio, like you need to create a bio eventually. Like, how do I actually like who am I basically? What do people think of me out there? Like if I should create a website, what should I put in the first page and all of that? And that's when I started structuring things around my name, the work that I'm doing, and all of that. Honestly, I think I fell into it, but I did more research to find out how to build a good brand. and how to sustain it, because it's not just like building a brand. It has to be something that is sustained over time to still be relevant, so that's how I delved into personal branding and how I built mine. Yeah.
Wow, you touched upon so many super important topics. I really like what you just said about having to or wanting to sustain it as well, right? Because it's one thing to get it started, and then it actually has to like be maintained. And I'm imagining it's also a lot of work. What you got started there, and I really like the 100 days of code that you mentioned, and we're going to put a link to that in the chat as well in a bit, because that's so cool. I feel like a lot of people are doing it. It's so motivating to see when folks do that.
Yeah.
Cool.
So what about you, Alba? How did you start with your personal branding?
Well, actually, I didn't know that it was that similar than Gift, because when I started developing like 7 years ago as a front-end developer, well, more than front-end, I was full stack. I was doing everything at job, like creating websites from scratch. But then I didn't know any communities more than my local one. Like in Alicante, we have like a ULab place that they create courses for people that can go for free and learn any new technologies that arise and things like that. And I was always going to courses, but never creating content on my own, because of course I was junior, I was learning. But when I realized that I wanted to live in outside Spain, I decided to start learning English, let's say, or at least speaking English. And for that, I started creating content that was in English, and I started creating articles about what I learned over the years. So my main goal was just practice English and also share my knowledge, but with a community I didn't know about, actually. And then when I started creating the articles and I started creating social media accounts only for the tech stuff, I realized that there was a lot of community online that I was missing, because of course I know Stack Overflow, but that was my only brand in that moment, my account in Stack Overflow, and I was not using it that much, So for me, it was really difficult to find people related to tech outside my work. So I just met the people that were working with me. And then when I started creating content, I discovered a lot of communities. And I discovered also that there was a huge also awareness in Spain about content creation. And I was missing that because I started in English directly. So I could have been creating content in Spanish my whole life. And I was starting in English 3 years ago, So, but now that I'm here, that I'm creating content, I realize that, I was missing so many things. That is really nice for our community, because you grow as a person. And that's the thing. The brand is not something you need to start thinking like, I want to create it. You need to be your own. I mean, you are your own brand. And for example, in my community in Alicante, if you talk about me to any tech people, they know me because I was really involved in Alicante. So my brand was already there without me knowing about brands. That's the thing. So you just need to start being yourself online, and that will lead you where you are now. Of course, if you are constant, as Gift said, it's easier to get a brand than if you post something each 12 months, So
That was really interesting what you both said. So basically, you didn't have this goal of having a personal brand. You just started to get more involved in communities. You shared your blog articles, not only for you, but also for other people to learn about. And based on that, you started to grow like followers because people were fans of your work, right?
Yeah.
So you always need to be authentic and true to yourself in order for people also to feel the same vibes as you, and they just start to get involved with you, and they identify themselves with you, and they just go along, right?
Well, actually, I had a problem in the beginning that maybe I will see if GIF also have it. When I started creating content, my content, maybe I was thinking that it was for beginners, But then suddenly I realized that it was not for beginners at all. I mean, what I was creating, it was for people that already know how to develop things, but I didn't know it because I was into it. So I know it. So I was trying to go in the basics, but maybe that basics was not that basic at all. So what happens to me is that people that were in companies, like for example, the Next team or Nendify people, start following me. And that was my followers, not normal people that were reading my content, companies that wanted to have content online using me, for example. So that's the thing. I start being an ambassador before having a followers counts, you know? And that was really, really different of what I was expecting, actually. So I don't know if
Yeah,
you had the same
I
situation.
have.
Yeah.
So I've had both situations, both the ones where companies would reach out based off content that I've created. So for me specifically, even though I'm like in the mid to senior level, I still like to create content for beginners. I even have videos where it's like explain like I'm five type of videos where you just pick a concept and try to explain it for new people to understand. Because of course, new folks learn through different mediums, videos, articles. So I'm just trying to try different ways to help people learn better. But I've also created content that, for example, I'm working on a project and I find that there is a specific need for content or articles on that area, and I write an article about that, and I see companies reaching out to me, specifically publications, to write for them. So I've had Alba's experience as well. I've also had experience of just writing for people that are like very in their early stage of their front-end development journey. And in that case, it helps those audience, and it also helps maybe the mid-range level engineers that are reading my stuff. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your thoughts. Sorry, I was like here to because I heard something that Alba said about for example that the followers were like big companies or next and that's so maybe having your personal brand did help you to find your first job and your dev relations
Well,
job?
actually, not my first job, because of course I didn't know about brand stuff and community in my first job. But actually, all the jobs I had since I created my Twitter account and I started creating content are because of my brand. Because, for example, Passionate People, where I met Gift and I worked with her, was because I was Dan Strauss. So the idea is that they know me because I was creating content. I get in contact with people like Debbie O'Brien from the Vue community. So she helped me a lot actually to grow in this content creation stuff and DevRel ecosystem, because she was already a DevRel. So she teach me almost everything I can deal with in my day-to-day basis, how to focus myself in creating content that matters to me, because otherwise you lose the energy and the motivation if you are not creating something you like, you know. And she's always so energized, and I wanted to be like her, you know. And having a mentor or a person that you can compare to makes you like follow that path, let's say. So after that, she recommended me to go to Passionate People, so I entered in that company. And then the next company I had, they also contacted me because I was creating content in my podcast in No Me Da La Vida. And then I'm here as a DevRel in Storyblok because I have been an ambassador for 3 years. So I mean, yeah, it's because of the brand.
Yeah,
What about you?
Yeah, sure. I've also had most of my jobs come through Twitter, which is quite surprising. Passionate People, yes, it was through Twitter DMs. Cloudflare the same as well, because the actually Cloudflare was interesting. They reached out because I made a video about Cloudflare pages, even though I wasn't working there. Yeah, and this at that time I was 6 months into Passionate People, and I said, fine, I don't want to work. I don't want to leave. yeah, but they still reached out a couple of months later, and I was like, why not just take the interview and see where it takes me?
Mhm.
And yeah, that's how I got the job, just by making a video, not even expecting a job from that. Um, the previous, I think the last 3 jobs I've had came from Twitter, just like that. Yeah.
That's so cool. But I think it's really interesting how both of you mentioned multiple times that this kind of happened without you like actually planning it step by step, right? It was out of an urge to create, to give back to the community and putting yourself out there in interacting with other people rather than, okay, I want to build my brand and this is my Twitter strategy, because we all know these people who are like all over Twitter asking these questions, I'm not saying anything.
I know what you're saying.
But you can say it. I mean, when I start in Twitter, what I saw is like a lot of people mentioning people to follow. No, it's like you need to follow these people. Oh, these people is under 5,000. It's not. They have to have more. So they start tagging me. And for that, I saw that kind of people that you mean. And it's like, well, they can have that kind of followers, and that kind of followers will lead them to have a community full of hate, full of toxicity. I mean,
Yeah.
I have been there, and I know if you have a lot of followers and it's not because of your work, it's just because you are trying to get higher. Of course, that people is not the people you want in your life. I mean, if you are yourself and you are creating your content and just being yourself, the people that follows you are your friends. I mean, I feel them like my friends. When I go to Spain to any conference and I met them, it's like I'm friends with that people. They know me actually. And that's so cool. I mean, because I have been myself and not another person. Otherwise, it's like, who are you? No. That's not me,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's important to be truth with yourself and not just to have followers. Yeah, I don't know what that leads, but not for
for the
something cool.
sake of having followers, right? Like then it's so artificial, like trying to boost it up into like a.
Well, actually, it can lead you to take money from them, because there is a lot of people that has a lot of followers. They post anything and they buy it. So yeah, but that's not our main goal, I guess, as developers. Yeah.
That's one way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think from my own experience just doing this, it's in my own interest. I don't know what other people think about this, is not just to pay attention to the metrics, number of followers, number of subscribers you have, because 2 things will happen from that. Is either you start being too, I don't know the best word to use here. I'm not too pompous, right? Maybe you gain like overnight 50K followers, and then you feel too big to talk to people online, or just forgetting your actual reason for doing it in the first place, right? Because of those numbers. And secondly, it's also going to, so one thing I find is, specifically for Twitter, I don't know about any other platform, is the more number of followers you have, the more the quality of content reduces, at least for the people that I've seen. So it's like, as a developer, you start seeing tweets like, as a developer, what should you like? Should you eat? Should you code? Should you sleep? Anyway, I just see that, and the reason why they post that is so they get a lot of traction from people, because that's content that people will most likely reply to, I guess. But yeah, you just lose focus eventually if you're more focused on, because you're trying to see how you can gain more followers, or how you can maybe gain more subscribers, or any of that. But yeah, I just try to stick with the actual goal that made me start this whole thing in the first place: help people and also help myself. Yeah. Or the like Alba said, the followers will come, and it's better they're like people that value the stuff that you're putting out than just people that follow you because you went viral from like a very controversial tweet. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not all publicity is good publicity in this case, I would say, right?
Yeah.
But you both mentioned Twitter a lot. Are there any other platforms that you use for content creation or content sharing?
Well, actually, when I started, I didn't have any much followers in Twitter, so anyone was seeing my tweets. So I decided to create my articles not only on my platform, my website, also in Dev2 and Hasnode, that they have already their own community. So there I start creating the followers on Twitter because they were reading my articles and leading to the Twitter account. Then I was connecting everything, let's say. So yeah, Dev2, I think, is when I started the platform I was using the most.
Oh, that's really interesting. But you shared on multiple blog platforms as well, just to kind of spread the word.
Exactly, because actually the first time you create your blog, you don't have any SEO or traction in Google, so you need these kind of things, canonical URLs to any platform you can add your content. And actually Dev2 and Hasnode are made for that. Actually, Hasnode was really the first beta version when I started, so they didn't have any audience neither. So I just stick with Dev2 and forget about Hasnode after 3 months. Yeah.
Cool. I also really like Dev2 because they have such a nice community over there. I don't know if it's just like the little like, fluffy bubble I live in.
Yeah, I think there is a bubble there. Yeah. But they are so cool, yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice. And then they sometimes feature the articles and you get mentioned somewhere, and then that really boosts. So that's really nice if the platform has internal mechanisms to kind of share content. True. Yeah. Absolutely. How about you, Gift?
Yeah, I've also tried different platforms. Like Alba said, I also did the same cross posting my content to Dev2, and at the time Hashnode, because it was still pretty new, and I left it. Yeah, so you find that I have both Dev and Hashnode, but my Dev2 is probably the one with most of the articles that I've written. And I also tried something that I'll still say I'm experimenting with, but I decided to move, or not move, but just dabble into video as well. So I started doing YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and every other video related because it's easy when you create one video, especially if it's like a 1 minute video, you can just post it on these different platforms. So I have specifically one YouTube channel where I talk about everything related to tech, career, and generally my life as a developer and how I'm navigating my career. And I've been doing that for like 4 years on YouTube. And from that, I also started doing TikTok because I saw last year TikTok was like the place to be for developers, right? So I was like, why not just join and see how it goes? So on TikTok, it's a little bit more quiet than usual, but when I find time, because of course with all these platforms, it's hard to be consistently posting on all of them. So that's why I'm still trying to find the balance there, but I have all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a really important topic. I mean, as dev advocate or DevRel or anybody in this field, I guess we have a bit of the liberty to create content and we're kind of already in the flow, but how do you manage all the platforms, all these engagements? Like, any words of advice? How do you focus?
From my side, I will say that it's really difficult. Actually, I don't have any notification from any of my personal accounts, only for the podcast one. Because the podcast I have it with another girl, and that's helping me a lot. I mean, she's in charge of the visual part, like the video platforms, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, and I'm more into the LinkedIn page and Twitter. And sharing the ownership, that's different. I mean, that's possible, that's something you can afford, but your personal things, I don't have any tips actually, because I'm a mess on that. Yeah. It's like sometimes I see an email like 1 month later, so it's like, no, I can't. I mean, yeah, you need people that makes that for you if you want to focus on your personal brand, like your job. Because for example, my colleague in the podcast, she is content creator also as job. So actually she has a person that check all the emails, the collaborations, and filter for her, because you can't create and also be aware of everything, like you need to choose.
Yeah.
But I think it sounds very healthy if you don't read your emails for a month, because I just know myself where I'm like, okay, there's another update, there's another, and you never get out of it. You're just like this little squirrel moving around and never being able to work.
But actually, as Gift said, if you have a focus, you work on something, so you know when to stop. But actually, I'm not good at planning when to look at the email, because in that month maybe I stopped my focus for a little, but I didn't check the email, so that's also a messy part of being focused.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a struggle to manage every single platform. For me, before moving to DevRel, I was doing all of these things during my personal time, and it's like I have liberty to work during the weekends, which is not healthy, by the way. Don't do that. But I was doing that a lot, and that's because that's the only time I had to spend on these other platforms and these other things that I'm doing. But eventually it led to burnout. I'll talk about that later. Or one thing that I think I'm doing now that has helped me is to do the amount of things that I can do, right? And not stress over, for example, I have so many DMs. And some of those DMs are asking the same thing I've said in the video, right? And I don't think I can reply to all of that. I have more than 40, 50, 100 messages asking me, how do you start a career in tech? And I've made a video about that 5 times, for example. So telling myself is fine. Maybe if I have the time, it's fine to reply, but you don't have to stress for that stuff, because I also have to focus on my own job and these other platforms, So I'm still struggling with managing all of it. And someone once told me that, of course, I can't do that now because it's like a side hobby. But someone told me the best way to do that is just offset it to someone, then pay them to do that stuff. But I mean, if you make a lot of money from them, you can afford to do that. But right now, I'm just doing it because I enjoy doing it. But maybe eventually, if I have like 100,000 subscribers, you don't know, I can hire somebody to do that for me. But for now, I just try to do the best that I can and leave the rest. Because honestly, I can't do too much. Yeah.
Exactly, you are one person, so
Yeah.
you need to live, work, and then create content. It's like
Yeah, totally. And it sounds like it's good if you get to a point where like, I can, if I have like a lot of time and I'm trying to help and I'm creating this content, it's going to answer these questions, right? So you see the demand and you have put the answers out there. So it's kind of on the people themselves to go there and be like, hey, actually, she made a really cool video about this, so I'm going to go watch that. Like, you can't take everybody by the hand and be like, okay, so I'm going to show you the 3 videos that are going to, I
can't, no.
Yeah. Regardless of how much you might want to.
So if you had one advice to give to people who want to start their own branding, would it be like maybe start writing content for themselves and then just share that content, and then people will start following instead of just start typing some random stuff in order to get followers? How do you?
Well, it depends on the case. I mean, I think that Gift will have the same experience as me, but when I start creating content, I will start creating things that I was using in my daily basis job, but without the focus of searching for a job, for example, because what I see trendy now is that you need to create a brand for finding your first job, like a junior. Because when I started working, I didn't have a portfolio at all. And I see that a lot of people now, when they go out from the bootcamp or from the degree, whatever, they are creating their own site with portfolio and with a lot of projects they have created open source. And in that moment, I didn't know what was open source at all. So it's like, what I see now is like there is a lot of job, but also a lot of people that wants to join us, like in the tech community. So they are creating their own brands to succeed in that job searching. And that's difficult, I will say, because of course you're going to start creating things, but if they have no value, your brand also doesn't have any value, because you will have a portfolio like everyone does, you know? So what I think is create the stuff that you think is valuable for you. Like when you are creating it, you are learning a lot, you are having a lot of fun, you are maybe sharing knowledge with people, because maybe your project is also having feedback from everyone else around your community, like that you think that you are growing when you are doing it. Because if you are only doing it for searching a job, everyone is doing that already too, you know? So it's easier that you get something from that project, that you feel it, that you feel that you are learning and growing, and then the job will come.
Yeah, and it also sounds like a lot of pressure for somebody who's just trying to find their first job, because
Exactly.
for me, it was the same. Like I came from my boot camp, I didn't have anything. Like, what am I going to show in my portfolio? I have nothing to show. I need some work experience, right? So I always find it super impressive if people manage to like polish the 3 PRs that they created into like a nice
Exactly.
we didn't do anything. What is this? Like, yeah. So it's really, it's a lot.
But
Yeah, absolutely.
I was asking also. So, how did you get between that thin line of having the full-time job, working for your own brand, and not having a burnout? Gift, can you? I would ask this to Gift, maybe. Yeah, to start.
The part, okay, yeah. So the part about managing everything, it's kind of tricky, specifically for. It depends on the person, actually. If some people, I find they're very. Actually, I think I'm very organized. I like to think that I'm very organized, but still, it's still hard to do all of the stuff. So when I started off, um, I have typical 9 to 5 that I do Monday to Friday. So what I would do is after my job or in the mornings, I would maybe start an outline, for example, for an article, and over the next couple of days, try to finish it, or during the weekends, try to finish that. And then that was just because I was doing just blog posts. And then I started adding more stuff to that. I started speaking, then I started doing videos, then I started hosting events and conferences. So you could imagine sometimes I would even say yes to events that are happening literally as I close from work. So 5 and then 6 p.m. I'm jumping on a call for, yeah. And I was taking all of them. Like, I think one thing that I didn't know earlier is that I could say no, right? All of those things were coming to me and I was like, oh, nice. Yes, yes, yes. I'll do it. I'll do it. But eventually I burnt out, and I read somewhere that, in fact, I found a whole article. I can't remember specifically where I found that. It, an article about how to reject opportunities. So I don't just reject opportunities, I pass it on to others. So, right, I've had people reach out, for example, to say, hey, would you do this? And I don't have the liberty, I don't have the time to do it. I say, oh, I know someone that would be a better fit for this, and then I pass it on. So I've done that ever since. But your question is how to avoid burnout. I didn't know how to do that before. So I burnt out. And it led to, I think this was around the same time last year. I was working at Passionate People. And thankfully, at Passionate People, it was a very nice job. And we, as Howard can testify to this, we had time to do what we wanted to do outside of the job. So it was good. But the problem was I was taking on too much stuff, right? So it affected me mentally. So I just had to take like a very long break, 3 months break, not doing anything. And that helped me a lot. And now I won't say I'm perfect because sometimes I still go over my limits, but I know how to say no now. And it's easy because you don't just say, no, I can't do it. You say, no, I can't do it, but maybe next time, or maybe I know someone that could be a better fit. So that's the route that I'm taking now. And I also see it in a way that I'm opening up doors for other people, right? Our mutual friend, Anuradha, she's also in
Yeah.
Amsterdam. We're speaking about going to Croatia because we applied to a conference. Both of us applied to a conference in Croatia, and I got in, she didn't. And then another conference reached out in Croatia, and I couldn't go because they were literally 1 week away. And I was like, would you like to go? And then I just passed it off to her, and she went to Croatia even before me, right? So things like that happens, and it makes you. People would then find that you are what's the best word to use? You open doors for them or you help them even without expecting anything in return. Because for me, it's either I say no or they move on to someone else, right? Why not just move it
Exactly.
to someone I know, right? So that's the route that I'm taking to avoid burnout. If I can't manage it, I'm just going to refuse it and probably ask them I could do it next time or pass it on to someone else. Yeah.
That's so beautiful because it's also supporting your fellows, right? So you're actually looking out for somebody else who's maybe not as visible as you or doesn't have the reach, or I don't know, maybe they just got overlooked by accident, and then you actually give them an opportunity. So that's so powerful. It's really nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, the saying no is such a process, isn't it? Like many of us are so prone to like try and please everybody and take every opportunity, maybe because we have been waiting for a long time to get any opportunity and now they're here.
Yeah.
I want to take it all, but oh boy.
No, it's hard.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And not only because of that, maybe we are just passionate about everything related with tech, and then we want to be everywhere, do everything, but then we just start to feel like tired, sad, and we don't know why until we get to the burnout point. And that was a lovely share. So thank you so much for that, Gift. I think that we need to be aware that it's not only roses. There are also the bad parts of that. But how can we just overcome? How can we just start to assign other people to some schedules that maybe are too much already for us? Or how can we start to say no? Because sometimes it's so difficult, but if we don't do that, we are only prejudice ourselves, right? So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and it's also really important to talk about, right? Because many of us, like, I don't know, are hesitant to talk about it or keep it to ourselves. And in the end, if people open up, we notice that we're a lot more similar and other people are struggling as well. So thank you so much for sharing.
Sure.
Yeah.
And actually, I just will say a little thing about the saying no. Actually, my podcast, No Me Da La Vida, is created because of saying no. Because both of us were really busy with everything. We didn't have the opportunity to say yes to everything because we didn't have time enough. And for that, we created the podcast naming No Me Da La Vida, that it means I don't have time enough to do everything I want to do, you know? So that's the meaning. Yeah, actually, because it's in Spanish, it's difficult to translate. But yeah, that's the meaning. And for that, we created that because we thought maybe if we lose opportunities, let's say because we didn't have time, at least we have one podcast episode a month. So we always do something constant and we don't lose our brains thinking, oh no, I lost this opportunity, and you start complaining about yourself for saying no, you know, because you have at least one thing out there each month. So for that, we created the podcast. So that was
That's
the
so
history.
sweet.
And that podcast is something that happens very naturally to you. So you don't need to like I need to create I don't know to prepare for this, because it's like you are just going to have a coffee with your friend, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's a cool thing.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes for all things that you're creating, right? What you just said, Mónica, if it comes easy to you, it's already so much less forced, and it's gonna take you less time and less energy, and likely even give you energy if you do these things that you enjoy, and rather stay away from the things that feel like way too much work.
Absolutely. True. I think that now it's a good time. We had a question. Okay. Let me check if I can find it. So it was something related. How can you sell yourself, but stay humble at the same time?
Well, I will give my point of view. No, actually, I don't think I'm selling myself when I post out there my content. I mean, I will say that it's marketing, but it's free, isn't it? So I don't feel like selling it because everyone can access, but if they want, I mean, I just post the tweet like I created this. And sometimes when I'm creating a bread, let's say I don't sell it because I said, this is working horrible. I mean, I made a mess in my bread, So it's more than selling it is don't buy it. But I think that's a good thing when you are just sharing your content constantly and they are used to, they really like to see what is next, and actually they ask you for what is next when you post that one. And it's like, I just post this video. Oh, when is the next one? And it's like, let me rest.
I'm not a machine, just wait a little.
But I think being humble is something that should be in your personality. I mean, I see people that when they are trying to share their content, maybe they are humble, but when they are speaking, they feel like narcissists, that they believe in their content. And maybe it's the way of marketing things, but they are not that way. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it really falls back to personality. How a person, so humility falls back to how you are as a person in your beliefs or whatever. So if you have, for example, maybe 50 followers and eventually you start creating content and you find that you are creating, of course, valuable content, and then you amass a larger number of following, and then you change how you were perceived before, you're no longer humble because you now have a lot of audience. I don't know. I've seen a few people that change, like switch up quickly, like that because of they are now celebrities, as people like to call them. But again, it's based on their own personality. How I sometimes I find that I shy away from even saying stuff that I have gotten recognized for. And it takes a lot of effort to say, for example, my previous manager, every time we're in a meeting and we are talking to a client and it's time to introduce myself, I just go, I'm Gifts. That's it. I don't say any other thing. And he keeps telling me not to do that, that I should like sell myself, right? But I feel I don't know, it's just my personality. I don't like that, right? When I'm in spaces and people recognize me from YouTube videos, I feel like just entering the ground, let the ground swell. Like personally, I am an introvert, but I know how to move. I think I'm an ambivert. That's what they call it, right? So I know when to be an extrovert and when to be an introvert, right? If you know me, I'm an introvert, but when I'm out there, yeah. So you can't find me being too forward or being too dramatic online because I now have a certain number of followers. Maybe if that's me, maybe someone has my phone. But no, I don't think so. It falls back to how you are as a person, really. And if you think about it, just being humble regardless. I don't even think that anyone has reached their full potential regardless of where they are, right? So if by chance you have amass a larger number of followers over a period, what then, and you change, what do you think would happen like in the next few years from that point? So I'm still growing, I'm still learning, I still find myself learning stuff every day. So I don't even want to feel too proud or anything. So I feel everybody should be that way. But again, it depends on your personality. So that's why I think about that.
I found it very funny that you don't even remember everything that you are into, like every talk that you gave, that every, for example, we were asking about, do you want to present yourself, or can we say something about you? And we forgot about the GitHub star. Then we were checking your Twitter in order to check everything about you, because you didn't told us about
Yeah. Naturally won't, yeah. But yeah, it's something I'm also being cautious of. There are times when you probably want to sell yourself, right? If you're looking for a job, for example, you should do that. But when it's not needed, you don't have to be too pompous or too proud, I think. Yeah. Among your peers, for example. Yeah.
And it's always such a pleasant surprise if you talk to people and then you look them up afterwards, or maybe you want to message them and you're like, oh boy, I didn't know they were actually famous. Like, and then you have chatted to them like throughout a dinner or whatever, and you're like, oh no, like this is so weird. Yeah. But in the end, it's a small niche in our tech circle, right? And you still have to clean your cat toilet and do the grocery shopping. So yeah, it's a very small bubble, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, I think we have a question. So someone asked, do you create your own persona to target a specific group of people when building a personal brand, or do you just be yourself?
I think we already answered that. No, in our case, we are ourselves. But of course, when I start creating content, actually, I was more, let's say, avoiding my personal stuff, like always posting about tech, but never talking about myself. But then I realized that my values are something important for my community. If I want to have followers, I want to have followers that are people I can trust. I mean, that they are not double faces or they are not aligned with me. So I start speaking how I am in every talk I give, in every interview, or just in the podcast, or if I'm tweeting, now I'm tweeting things about my life. Of course, they related, but with my persona there, you know, because creating another persona, oh my God, you need to be really smart to don't mess up with your persona and yourself. I mean, that's really difficult.
Yeah, I guess like for some people, maybe it feels a bit like a protection if you're not 100% yourself and you don't share everything, but just like aspects of it. And maybe you're a bit more extrovert, or maybe a bit more, I don't know, loud or whatever on the outside. And then you keep some sides to yourself to kind of shield yourself from, I mean, Twitter especially can be rough, right?
It is.
I don't know if you have any experience with that, but sometimes it feels like a place you don't want to be yourself all time.
Yeah, I think I could answer that as well. As regards building, how do you build your personal brand? I think for me, it started off with just being myself, and I was always creating stuff that I was interested in, stuff that I was using, not targeting a specific niche community because I want to be part of that. But yeah, just doing stuff that I love doing, because honestly, if you focus on doing stuff because you want to be there but you're not interested in that, you won't last long, because content creation is hard work, right? And if you need to be consistent, and you need to be consistent also, so it's not like you make an article in January and the next time you're posting is in December. You need to keep the consistency going. So it has to be something you actually enjoy doing. Yeah, that's my answer to that.
Okay. Maybe having a calendar would help, like to to say, okay, every Thursday of this every month, I'm going to create a post, maybe.
Yeah, so for now, I think that has shifted a bit for me because it's now my job, kind of. So yeah,
True.
but I also still try to, like, I keep my personal brand regardless of what company I work for.
Mhm.
Find out, create content about Cloudflare. I still create content about the stuff that I'm doing. So I still have gifts and whatever other company I'm working for, right? I don't try to mix them up. So what I do now is when I'm working, I create content as if I'm working on a tax. So for every conference I go to, that's like a Trello, what's it called? Not Trello, Jira. That's a Jira ticket, for example. But when it's my personal stuff, then I'm a bit more relaxed on how to schedule that. So for example, for YouTube, I have like one live stream per week. And if I'm traveling, for example, and I can't make it, then I cancel, it's fine. For articles, I feel like it depends because, yeah, I find that because I do too many different things, it's harder to say, oh, I'll do articles this time, I'll do videos that time. Then I just do as they come to me. But yeah, that's how I'm doing it now. That makes sense. But before working in DevRel, because I'm not shuffling between my content I create for my work and content I create for myself, I had like a content calendar that I was sticking to, but now I just go with the flow for my personal stuff. Yeah.
Thank you. What about
Yeah.
you, Alba?
Well, actually, when I start creating content in my own site, I started with a calendar for posting one per week. Of course, without knowing what that means. And of course, after 3 months doing that, I almost get anxiety and everything. And I realized maybe you are the grown boss you can have in your life. So I stopped doing it and I started creating the articles with more time and just. I don't have like a plan on how I will create the content. I just have a topic I want to have, like an idea. So I have like an ideas list with things I want to do. And just when I have time, I do it. Of course, I try to be now not specific in technology because they change the versions each month.
Mm-hmm.
So when I try to do it, I forgot everything because I don't know the new changes. So what I try to do now is like I want to create a library, and I don't say the framework, I don't say the tools, So I try to, yeah, I am in my case, I start creating articles, then I start creating projects like demos and things like that. And now what I'm trying to do is creating podcasts. I don't know. It's like my flow is changing also. It's like now I want to do voice, now I want to do articles. I don't know. But actually, the DevRel role helps you to create a lot of content. So you already have a presence online,
Mm-hmm.
let's say. Of course, it's with the brand of your company, but also with yours. I mean, a lot of people was thinking that the Storyblok was mine because I was creating content only of them. So it was like, no, 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 I'm just an ambassador. Yeah, and nowadays I think if you create content in your company and it's public, they can see it for free. I think for me counts like a content I'm creating,
Yeah.
like you guys. You are creating now a live stream, so for me that's a check, in the list
Yeah.
of tasks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's good. It kind of lifts the pressure if you say like, okay, so I tried every week. It's a bit much. It's a bit ambitious. So I'm going to be a bit kinder to myself and just like go with the flow. That's very reasonable. If you can.
Yeah, I'm not so I'm not dev relations, but I love to create content. I started to do that also because I'm teaching. So creating content helps me to understand about what I'm going to speak. And I had the same. So I had a calendar and I had something saying I need to post every 2 weeks. And then when the time was already there, I started to stress about it. So I need to do this. I can't go out because I need to finish the article. And then the article was taking me longer because I needed to also add some code snippets to it and that kind of stuff. And I was just like, no, this this must end. So I only have the ideas on the board. I use your Notion, by the way. So I have the ideas, and then when I get the time,
Which Notion? Mine?
Notion, the app.
Okay. No, because actually I have I have a Notion content creator pack that you can buy and use. Yeah. So that I think Gift was saying yes because of that.
So please share.
Yeah, I thought that was
They have a product.
I want to know
now
about
I'm
that.
telling.
Please,
this is an ad.
Please share on our chat. I will buy it. I don't know. I need to check about that first.
I love that we asked like a second ago, like, hey, so how do you not feel awkward about selling yourself? And I was like, no, I'm not selling anything. It's free. Like, now we can buy it.
What are you talking about? I do have one. So
I love that. I need to check that out. That's really cool.
And another thing that you were saying is by also sharing your personal life a little on your Twitter account or other social media also allows people who follow you to know that you are people, you are human, right? You are not just a tech superstar that creates a lot of content, but you also have your personal life. You also have, I don't know, a cat or a dog, or you go for a walk and you need to also do breaks, not only just creating content all the time. The people identify themselves with that, and they get closer with you. No?
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. So one thing that I do specifically on sharing a bit about myself is I create vlogs on YouTube, right? So I've done a day in my life as a developer advocate, something like that. And I kind of get more people interested in that, which is weird because I wasn't even thinking people would want to watch me make coffee. But it's
I do the GIF.
it's interesting because it gives them a sense of you as a person. Like they kind of know, even if they don't know you in person, they know a bit about you from watching. Like that's part of your life story that you share. Personally, I remember before moving to Amsterdam, I was living full time in Lagos, and I did a whole video about my move, how I got a job, how I moved. Until today, it's been 2 years. Till today, I still get questions and people saying they watched the video, it helped them, that they've moved to Amsterdam too. And it's just crazy, right? So I find that yes, sharing the tech side of yourself is good. Of course, it's also valuable, but also knowing, I'm not saying share everything, like if you're walking your dog, post that, no. But knowing, because of course, specifically Twitter, I don't do too much on that on Twitter because Twitter is a bit toxic, but more on YouTube or Instagram. But just sharing that part also is really helpful for your audience and the community you're trying to build. Yeah.
Okay, so more personal stuff maybe on Instagram instead of Twitter.
Yeah, I think first that's for me. Yeah.
Okay.
That's so interesting.
Thank you so much.
I heard a bunch of different people saying they use the platforms for different things. Also because, I mean, Instagram naturally is more visual, and then maybe TikTok is more like shorter yet informative, and you have music usually, and it's like a different vibe, right? So that's super cool. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Nice. You have mentioned that Twitter is a bit toxic. Do you have any, or is there anything you do to protect yourself kind of from that? Or do you have like a strategy except for not sharing, I guess?
So with Twitter specifically, I think it's hard to manage. I found it different ways that helps me just stay sane. Of course, I like Twitter a lot. There are a lot of cool people on that app. I've met a lot of amazing people there, but there are also sometimes there's just something happening every week, right? That you don't want to see. So what I do is notifications on all my applications. Every app that I use is off by default, and I stop doom scrolling. Like you will hardly find me just scrolling on Twitter. I used to do that before, but after I took so I did this digital minimalism thing for like a month around last year. So that just changed my perspective on just initially I'll pick up my phone and the next time I'm on Twitter and I'm scrolling. But nowadays I hardly do that. And that's just trying and being cautious of it. So I trained myself to stay off the whole social media space for like a month and see how that works. Of course, it was difficult, but I did it. And then after that, I also tried using different apps. I remember there's this app that does this RSS feed thing, Feedly. So it pushes, of course, I want to be on Twitter for the nice things that people share. So instead, I subscribe to a lot of blogs on Feedly and then I just read it there. So, for example, all those new blogs from CSS Tricks comes to my Feedly account and I can read it from there instead of going to Twitter to see what was just posted. So I did all of that. And that made me stop spending as much time as I would spend on Twitter. And this is last year. I've still not been as active as I was before. I'm there. Like if you message me, I'll reply you. But you wouldn't just find me just scrolling. That's how I manage the whole Twitter thing. And when there is something happening that's really bad, like someone goes viral because something, and I see it's something that I don't want to take in. Of course, there's like positivity and negativity. If I find out, I don't just want to read about it. So all the political stuff going on, I don't try to be involved there. I don't share too much of my opinions, especially if it's controversial. I don't do that. Yeah, so that's how you keep yourself sane on Twitter.
Yeah, that sounds like a good starting point. I guess like Alba, do you have any additional strategies, or do you do something similar?
Well, actually, I think I'm really lucky because I don't have that much community. I mean, I have followers, but there is no like more than 10K. So it's not that big, let's say. So everyone that is following me until now, I didn't see any toxicity, any hate. I mean, they are really cool people. So I'm lucky, I guess, because of course I have friends that they have episodes and people that were really, really like they were posting about something about Disney. Like, I want this film of Disney to have this end instead of the one it has, just because of yeah, machismo and all the things. And the other were posting a retweet with that tweet, saying that that tweet was because she didn't have any parents. And actually, it's kind of true. But that guy didn't know. And they start laughing about it. And it was a high account, like with a lot of followers. And that was really hard for her, you know? So yeah, I can imagine that people is a little bit, let's say, bad humans. And yeah, that's difficult to struggle. I mean, the only thing she did was just be surrounded by her friends and people that already know her, you know, to support the thing that she was posting there. So we start in the thread adding our comments and things like that. But yeah, it's difficult because that people are really famous actually. They are not like random people only hating and that's it. No, there is people that are with a lot of followers that are really bad persons, you know. And yeah, I'm lucky. My community, I'm in a bubble. We are laughing together, talking about everything openly. So yeah, I'm lucky.
Yeah, I mean, it's good, and fingers crossed it stays that way, right? Like you both mentioned that there is like lots of good discourse Discord discussion. I'm losing my words. But there's lots of good stuff happening and lots of inspiring content shared on Twitter, and there's so much support. But then there is the dark side, and if you're lucky, you kind of stay in your happy, supportive bubble. And if you're not, it's just carnage. So
It's wild.
So fingers crossed. Let's keep supporting each other. But I think it's really healthy to have some strategies and a moral support pad.
Yeah.
If things get rough, right?
Yeah, and always know that is the people that are tweeting that are not your people. I mean, you don't know them.
Yeah.
So you need to start thinking about that. Like, if it affects you, you need to treat that. Because of course I go to the psychologist, and I guess a lot of people that can afford it goes, and you work on that, like see that people are not someone that it matters to you. It's random people, because otherwise it's really difficult.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one more question on the chat. So let's go back to a different topic. How do you ease yourself into content creation? My Notion is full of ideas. So this is coming from Daniel, who is watching us, that I haven't finished. Do you limit yourself on how many ideas you generate?
I don't.
Me neither. And actually, Daniel is always DM me with all the ideas he has, instead of maybe adding into Notion. So I know Daniel. No, it's difficult. Because if you are motivated, that's the thing, isn't it? You will just get an idea, and when you start working on that one, you will get another one. It's like, oh, but I can do this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I've also had the same thing, that I started feeling bad because, of course, you have so many ideas, you can't work on all of them. So I have a notion of the content I want to create, and in the Kanban board, I have ideas, and then the ideas just keeps flooding in, and I had to hide it because I just hate seeing it, and then so what I did, I moved them somewhere else, and then when I feel it's time to work on it, I move them back into the board. So that's how I deal with it right now.
That is so funny. That everyone has the same issue. So we always have a lot of ideas, and then we just put it in the kind of a backlog.
And there is a next level, because I had ideas on what to do with the ideas.
What?
Like for example, going to the copyright thing and getting the idea with copyright just in case someone did it, or sell it online, like they can buy the ideas.
What?
Because there is people that actually work giving ideas to someone else. That's an actual work. And if we are always creating ideas, why not to, make profits of it?
Sounds good.
Please share a link to that.
Alba already adding another idea to her Notion. So why don't I sell ideas?
Sounds like a gold mine.
Yeah,
Next, we start selling unfinished projects. Right? Take them.
You can start create issues on GitHub, for example, and then you have another developer working for you and creating. So.
Yeah, actually, that's open source, isn't it? I mean, it's like a lot of people having ideas like, let's create this framework, but they don't have resources. Let's do it together, Yeah, maybe we need to do that. Collaborate more. I think it's easier to get ideas done if you have help. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or to talk through one and develop a storyline and then get started with it, right? If you have like a sparring partner to run that by, that usually really helps to put perspective on things.
For sure.
Yeah, sure.
Wow, but I just see we have been talking for an hour and 15 minutes. There has been so much good stuff in there. I already feel like I need to watch this back and get all the inspiration. Shall we slowly start wrapping things up if we don't have any more questions in the chat? Yeah.
No, we only have ideas right now, so.
Too many. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining and for having this open conversation. I actually took notes on all the things that I want to look up after, so I'm super excited for it. Thank you so much. And it was a pleasure having you. And maybe in the future, there will be another round of GirlCode Coffee where you can join.
Or you can say no.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. The possibility is always there.
Other person to
Anurada.
Exactly. Yeah, Anurada would be a very good next.
Yeah, in
potential
accessibility.
guest, actually.
She's really good at
Another note.
because Josephine is also into accessibility, so they need to pair.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We already have the
right
person for that as well. So.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Thanks to you, girls.
Have a great rest of the day, and thanks everybody for joining. Stay tuned for the next episode.
You too. Bye.
Bye.